Hey, what's up, people? How are you all doing today? Today, we're going to be talking about the entries for the April Art Dare. And if you want to learn how to turn your artistic weakness into your strength, then definitely check out artprof.org, where we have lots of free resources, tutorials, critiques, art dares, and all that good stuff. So, Clara, why don't you discuss what the April Art Dare was all about this past month?
The April Art Dare was to take a selfie on your phone and then create a self-portrait in any media based on that selfie. And we got inspiration from Deep Dee's selfies because she happened to take a bunch of selfies and transformed herself into something a little bit less aesthetically pleasing. And so we looked a lot at Deep Dee's transformation from the selfie photo into the drawing, and we asked people to play with distortion, foreshortening, exaggeration, facial expression, and people had a lot of fun with this art dare. So let's take a look at the first artist. And the first artist is Nandy, who is from Louisiana. And you know what? This is Nandy's first art dare. Isn't that awesome?
Oh, well, welcome, Nandy, to doing the art dare. That's so great.
Nandy is an art teacher, and she teaches at 5 different schools throughout the week, visiting 2 to 3 schools a day. That's a lot of work. And Nandy explains this piece is motivated by the, quote, battle between traditional and digital media. I'm drawn more to the art programs like Procreate for its ease of use, but the feeling of scraping a palette knife against a taut canvas feels like I'm making something, whereas digital art feels like flickers of ideas. So Nandy explains this is her first attempt to marry the two. Started with 2 selfies, used dried oil paint scraped off of palettes from previous paintings, and then Nandy adhered them to the canvas, sketched out the selfies to, quote, form a fissure of my identity. You must know about the digital versus traditional thing, Jordan.
Yeah, that's a challenging process. That's really, I actually don't know if I've seen people do that so many times. I think people like to stick with one thing. They like to stick with just doing the traditional or just doing the digital, or they try to make the digital look traditional, which is very common. But trying to find a way to marry the two and coming out with a successful piece, that is a whole different monster in and of itself.
I mean, I love the physicality of this piece, the scraped up paint from the palettes. I mean, I always feel bad because I end up with all this extra paint on my palette and I don't know what to do with it. So this is such a great solution.
Yeah, this reminds me. I actually had a classmate who made a piece like this and used like all this like recycled material, and like it was painting like 2 political figures, and it kind of had a similar result, and it was just very dynamic, the piece overall. So I'm getting those emotions back as I look at this.
And it's really fun because the distortion goes a little bit deeper than just the textures, because if you look at the 2 eyes, they're just like a little bit too far apart to be accurate in terms of proportions. And so it's a painting that tricks you a little bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think there might even be in slightly different directions too, when I think about it.
Oh yeah, because one of them is sort of going this way, the other one's going the other way.
Yeah.
Phyllis says the texture on this is delicious. Jeremiah says that's so genius. And Seven Angelic says, wow, what a cool idea. Isn't it so fun to see all the different responses? Because it's like everybody starts in the same place, and yet the directions that people go are so vastly different. That was my favorite part of art school. I don't know about you, Jordan.
Oh yeah, like when I'm in English class and we're all reading the same book, there's only so many, at least for me, most times there's only so many interpretations of, Franz Kafka or something like that, or Leo Tolstoy or whoever. But with art, everyone has a completely different experience and type of medium that they want to use, and everything is just going to be completely unique. And I agree with you. I think that's probably my favorite part of art school, or the artist journey in general.
I will say also, I really like the red in the background and how it falls down and pushes across in front of the figure, because we have a lot of conversations here where people say, do I really have to do a background? I'm like, yeah.
Always do a background, guys.
Yeah. because the background here, it makes a big difference. If we didn't have that background, we definitely would not engage. And actually, we always tell people to not center their portraits because that's sort of the default composition for portraits. But the thing is, the way Nandy composed the background offsets the portrait being in the middle. And so that was a brilliant solution, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the way this is done, there's never a place where I'm stuck. I feel like I'm constantly moving my eye around the canvas in this, this big circle shape, and how the pink, magenta kind of cuts in front and goes back up to the blue and the yellow, and I just keep making that circle. So really, really solid job on that.
All right, let's take a look at the next artist. And I believe that Phyllis is live in the chat. I'm going to scroll up and see if I can find you, Phyllis. Yeah. So Phyllis is here. We love it when the artist is live during the stream. And so Phyllis explains, I was into taking selfies when I was younger and hotter, and I toyed with the idea of altering an older selfie for the art dare for my poor ego's sake. That would have been dishonest, so I swallowed my pride, took some pictures, intending to manipulate the images and call it a day. And Phyllis explains, I decided that recreating what I saw in the photos with colored pencil would be a lot more interesting than the photos themselves. Colors make me very happy. Even as I fade into my old age, I want to be seen as colorful. What do you think, Jordan?
I love these. These were some really, really solid ones. And I am also kind of a glutton for color. Anyone who's seen my work knows I love looking at saturated colors, and this it just fits that mold so perfectly. And you're not afraid to go there. You have these, slime green colors, like these bright, I think of like Nickelodeon slime. I grew up on that, so forgive me. But like this, really saturated green, and you have this saturated magenta and these oranges, and it doesn't feel it feels jarring, but in the right way. Like I'm drawn into it, like it doesn't feel like, ugh, like that's too much. So I really, really like this a lot.
By the way, I just want to give a shout out to Nandy, whose work we just reviewed. So lovely to have you here live in the chat. Well, Phyllis, I don't think you're fading into old age. I think you're doing the opposite. I think you are like popping out. I mean, that's fantastic. And I think there's so many annoying stereotypes about getting older, and they're just not true. I mean, all the people that I know that are older, they're so much bolder and more opinionated because I think you just get tired of the crap and you just are like, I'm just going to put it out there.
Yep, that's what my family's been saying. They're like, wait till you hit 50, Jordan, and you just don't care no more.
Yeah, and we see some comments, some Zachariah, the complementary colors all next to each other in this makes it explode off the page. I love it. Kari says, great colors and expression. Yeah, people are really impressed by your colors, Phyllis. So clearly you're making an impression. And Jordan, I think it's crazy that these are colored pencil drawings.
Yeah, I would not have the patience to do it for color pencil for me. Like I just wouldn't. That to me is too much rendering. But the thing that I really like about this is the consistency. Like most people, I feel like would put all their pressure in one area and they'll have a lot of kind of grainy texture or the paper showing underneath. And you just went in and said, nope, I'm going to cover everything. And like, it almost looks like it could be paint. Like that's how much you covered this. And it's just really impressive. I really, really like these.
Yeah, Phyllis, I don't know what your secrets are, but I rarely see colored pencil that's this dense and dramatic. I mean, there's almost always a little bit of grain, even when people are really trying hard. So I don't know, maybe you just have really strong hands, but the intensity is just extraordinary. And if I look really close, I can start to see some of the strokes, but I mean, I have to be searching. So I feel like Phyllis almost transcended the material in a way.
Yeah, you definitely, the challenges that most people face with colored pencil, you just said, screw that, I'm doing something else, and I'm gonna do something really, really solid. And yeah, I honestly can't stop looking at these colors. It's just fantastic.
And you know something, every portrait feels different. Like if you go back to the first one, the colors are really, really bright. And then you go back to the second one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the third one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the fourth one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the fifth one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the sixth one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the seventh one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the eighth one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the ninth one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the 10th one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the 11th one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the 12th one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the 13th one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the 14th one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the 15th one, and they're really, really subtle. And then you go back to the 16th one, and they're really, This one feels a little bit more relaxed. The second one, I love the diagonal composition, by the way. It's very disorienting, but I think in a positive way. This one, the light feels a little bit softer. And then this one is just so bright. I mean, I love that the lighting changes from portrait to portrait.
Yeah, I actually think out of the three, I think this one's my favorite because you have the two different types of lighting. You have the orange coming on one side, and you have kind of the you know, where the orange and the blue meet, that kind of magenta purplish, and then you have the blue fill light on the other side, and it just feels really, really great.
Blue Wolf says it looks more like gouache than colored pencil. Raw Nook says, "Oh my, Phyllis, this is done in colored pencil. That's the epitome of patience and finesse." Kessam says, "You're going to break your fingers to do this." And Phyllis explains it takes a long time, hours to do them. Yeah. I love it when people change our expectations of material, because I think we all have in our head this idea of what we expect colored pencil to look like. So when we see somebody really changing that and messing with us, it's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. And it's hard to break that mold too. To have a vision for a material that's outside of the norm is very challenging. Then to succeed in that, again, like, and to have so much color, so much vibrancy, and a subject matter that's really just so simple. You know, I know the assignment was portraits, but still, like, kudos to you, Phyllis. These are great.
All right, let's take a look at the next artist. And I think that they're in the chat, by the way. This is Iris Wild, who explains that they had just chopped off a bunch of hair and taken some selfies because I felt so much better about myself. So it was good timing with the art there. And Iris says, "I want to incorporate yarn from the hand-woven scarf I was wearing. The color is pigment from ink-tense pencils mixed with water and textile medium. Since I don't have a lot of experience, the stitching was mostly trial and error." This is really funny too, because Iris, I saw you post the first version and then I saw the later version. So Iris says, "I didn't like the result until I realized I'd forgotten to put in my glasses." My first art dare, I'm excited. What do you think, Jordan?
I think this is really cool. I think my favorite part is the stitching, probably because that's something I never think to use as a medium, or I just sewing, you know, just stitch again, like that just doesn't cross my mind ever. So to see that, and then the fact that you combine all these other materials too, and then you even add a scarf and you know, all this stuff, it's just you just kept one-upping yourself. I think, you know, you start with one thing, you're like, you know, let me push the envelope, and then let me push the envelope again. And I think that's always really cool as an artist to see that.
And isn't it fun to see the pre-glasses version?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, it's so funny to me because whenever I'm drawing and there's someone wearing glasses, or they have like a lot of facial hair, like a big like Steve Harvey mustache or beard or something, it always looks so different when you leave it off versus when you put that back on. I always enjoy that.
Well, I really do think that glasses, a lot of the time, they're a part of people's personality. And sometimes when people take off their glasses, especially the ones that are a little bit bolder and more dramatic in terms of their design, you almost don't recognize them, or they feel like a different type of person. So yeah. I'm really glad you put them in. Yeah,
for sure. Just real quick, there are two people who I wouldn't recognize without glasses initially. Was Elton John, and then Daniel Radcliffe when he was younger and he's playing Harry Potter. I had no idea who he was when he took the glasses off.
Oh, that's so funny. I totally get that, though, because it's such a strong part of their personality.
Yeah.
We have some comments. Ariel says, "I love this one. Thoughtful and skillful use of embroidery." And this is Ankari, who is the artist. "I had just been on an embroidery kick right before the art dare." I've never done embroidery. Have you done it, Jordan? It doesn't seem like your thing.
No. That is not my thing. I appreciate it, but I have not done it.
We have, Blue Wolf says, "I look a bit naked to me without my glasses." I love that. And Kessam says that hairstyle. There's something significant about getting a haircut. It can transform you. Sometimes it feels like not a big deal, but I actually read this article about this hairstylist who was in New York, and he started offering haircuts to homeless people in a park. And they said that it was really transformative for a lot of those people, because it wasn't something that a lot of them were accustomed to getting, and just like the effect it had on them as people.
I can imagine. I mean, my dad was a barber, and he would often, like he would, that was his whole life. And so I think he really appreciated the fact that you can change someone. Like there's, you have options for how you want to look, and it can really affect you. Like even LeBron James, like he was balding for quite a while, and whatever the barber did, he hooked him up, because now he doesn't have to wear the headband anymore.
Kesem says, I like the way the shadow on the face is blocked in. What do you think about the shadow?
Yeah, the shadow is really unique. I always like the graphic shapes, like big, bold, and some often simple shapes. So when you have this big block of shadow there, and you're not worrying about, oh, does the skin fold this way or that way, it just makes it more impactful for me. And it feels kind of comic booky, and I like comics and things like that, so don't take that the wrong way, but I really like how you're handling that.
And this is such a beautiful photo, Iris. I mean, we have a lot of streams about Instagram tips and how to photograph your work and everything. I just love this spread, because in a single image, we see your whole process. We see the selfie, the digital mock-up, the tracing paper. I mean, this is like, I wish you would be my like poster child for a social media photo, because it explains everything visually. And that's what a lot of people struggle with on Instagram, because Instagram is such a visually driven medium. And I feel that this is just such a great way to sum it up really quickly without any confusion. Ankari says, I learned a lot about shadow shapes from a Skillshare class. It has really changed the way I approach portraits. Lighting can be very powerful, don't you think, Jordan?
Oh, always. I never paint or draw anything that I plan to spend a lot of time on without thinking about lighting.
Yeah, and I think that it really, gives your piece a certain degree of depth, even though the way that you've drawn it, it's not like shading and stuff like that and rendering, but we definitely get the feel of that depth. Okay, let's look at the next artist. This is Christy Mantle. And Christy explains that they started painting during maternity leave, really loved it, but found it difficult to begin again now that I have a child. And Christy says, I started using Procreate because it's something I can easily pick up and put down during the day. So there are two images of breastfeeding. Breastfeeding works were done after I was forced to stop breastfeeding because it just wasn't working. Breastfeeding is incredibly difficult for a lot of new mothers. I want to share a little part of the struggle so more people know how hard it is. Oh, I feel you, Christy, because when I had my kids, I'm sure you don't have this experience, Jordan. There are all these books that are like, breastfeeding is a lovely moment and you bond with your child. When I breastfed, I was like, get this thing off me. I'm in so much pain. It's really, really hard. So Christy explains, parents are often shamed for giving their children formula, even though for most it's not a choice. They have to use it. And then this piece is called, quote, What My Son Sees. In order to make it, I took several selfies from the exact height and angle of his eyes as he lays under his play gym. What do you think?
I really like this theme of brand new motherhood. There's something very, it feels sensitive, it feels warm, it feels lively, and yet so simple. Like, it's not over the top, it's just a gentle moment in the day of the life of a new mom. And I really like that. And I think simple moments like that are often things that we tend to overlook as people, but they're the ones that are the most impactful.
Yeah, and you know something? Breastfeeding is uncomfortable for a lot of people. I know a lot of new mothers, number one, have trouble finding a place in public to breastfeed. Even at work, that's a major problem for a lot of new mothers, that a lot of workplaces, I mean, they're supposed to, but don't provide appropriate places for people to breastfeed. And so I think you'll find, Christy, that even though this feels like something a lot of people don't talk about, I think a lot of people, I mean, maybe some of you in the chat who have breastfed can see yours. I definitely see my experience in your drawings. I mean, you're addressing a contemporary subject that I think a lot of people experience, but maybe don't talk about that much.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as someone who's never gone through this experience, I could say it's very heartwarming, you know, and I especially like the one as my baby sees me, like just that angle and even the perspective on the little toys and stuff. Like I just never thought about what a child would see at that size, that angle. Like it's just a different image for me. I really like that theme there.
You know what else is funny, Jordan? These to me are not what we think about as a quote selfie, because for most people, the stereotypical selfie is your face and stuff like that. And the funny thing about this one, it is a selfie. Technically, that's how Christy made it. And yet the result of it is telling the story from her son's point of view. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. I think that's what pushes this over the edge for me. It's just that idea. It's like you stuck with the assignment, but you twist it in a way that's very clever, and it makes sense for the two paintings that you did, and it just adds so much more. It adds your experience too. It's not just a photo.
Jordan Soyton says Jordan's aunt would probably comment on this.
Oh my god.
If you want to know, go back and watch one of our YouTube shorts where Jordan tells the story of his very straight and to the point aunt.
Yeah, my auntie. I'm not gonna say her name, but yeah, she definitely say something.
Ariel says, I love that she is boldly sharing these intimate moments. And this is great. Karen says it's a self-portrait, but it's recognizable to so many mothers. Yeah, I mean, I can see myself in that moment. And Ron Nook says your breastfeeding pieces are so pure and poignant. And also, I mean, we haven't talked about the technique yet. I mean, these are Procreate. Isn't this incredible?
Yeah, Procreate is tough to paint in, especially for me. And so the fact that you just went all out and did all this in Procreate is really phenomenal. And you got the softness of the skin, you got these very intimate moments, and they're finished pieces and also like they said, it's intimate moments, endearing, and people are having a reaction to it. That's got to say something.
Also, Christy, I am amazed that you're making any artwork with a new baby, because I don't think I made anything for at least a year, because I was just so spent taking care of my kids. So this is really phenomenal. Soleil says, I've never experienced these moments, and looking at these paintings feels overwhelming in a heartwarming way. And that's amazing, because I think oftentimes people might say, oh, well, I haven't had a baby, I've never breastfed, this has nothing to do with me. But Christy, the fact that you're reaching people that have not had this experience and you're touching them in that way, I think is really phenomenal. Pakarabi says it's digital. I thought those were oils. Love it. All right, let's move on to the next artist. This is Mel Smith, who says, I really enjoyed the April Art Dare. It was very much in my comfort zone because I like doing portraits. Try to express some kind of emotion, and for me, drawing or painting people is the best way of doing that. It's interesting because I know a lot of people do the Art Dare specifically to get out of their comfort zone, but it's sort of nice when it lines up with what you like.
It is nice. I always appreciate homework assignments like that.
Yeah, like pencil drawings on copy paper.
Precisely.
Exactly. So Mel says, one of the media I used was Caran d'Ache Neocolor 1 crayons. Right here, we have a tutorial and several that show this material, which I first learned about from Art Prof. Thank you. The abstract Art Dare for May is definitely not in my comfort zone, but I'm hoping to find the courage to find it. Well, we hope to see you submitting something for the May Art Dare, but let's look at these portraits. And there's a lot of them, Jordan. So what do you think?
All right, I just got to get this off my chest really quickly. I keep seeing characters from Breaking Bad, and it's awesome. This looks like Mike to me. Anyone who's ever seen this show looks like Mike. And I'm sorry, I just had to say that. I had to say that because that's the first thing. But no, but the drama in these pieces are really, really solid, and I think that's also kind of adding to the whole Breaking Bad thing, because a lot of the shots have very harsh lighting, and they're very specific to certain emotions. And there's nothing that feels static. Like, everyone feels like it could be its own unique, specific story or moment in a story. And the harshness of how you're using the material and adding the texture, I think really adds to that overall emotion, that feeling.
Mishi says it's admiring how dynamic mediums Mel has used in these portraits and how dramatic they are. Yeah, Ankari says these are amazing. And Phyllis says these are almost scary, very in your face with the emotions. What kind of emotions do you see, Jordan?
Yeah, I see, scary. I see, frightening or frightened. There was one image that at the very beginning that it was black and white, and it had half of the face in shadow and the other half lit up. Like, that one to me was very noir-esque. Like, I felt like I was watching, was it Philip Marlowe or something? Is that the actor?
Brando?
No. Well, I mean, I guess him too. Yeah, sure. But it feels very. I think that's the character in the Maltese Falcon, actually, now I think about it. But it feels very noir. It feels very like 1930s film detective type of thing. It's just really, really strong, and I love stuff like that. This one just feels like a terrifying moment. Like, whatever this guy's going through, I don't want any part of it, But like, it's just a really. Like, you feel that pain. You feel that pain that he's going through. There's so much emotion in the eyes, and you can't even really see them very well. It's just, you're putting so much into such a limited space, which is really, really cool.
You know what, though? This also feels like a guy I don't want to mess with.
Yeah.
Actually, Mel, if you're watching this, these remind me a lot of the German expressionist painter Max Beckmann, who had these just wonderful portraits with so much personality. And you really, I think, are doing an amazing job with the range of expression, because there are some in here that are just terrifying. But then there's some that are a little quirky, a little bit strange. Like, this guy's sort of analyzing me. I don't know. I feel like every single portrait here, there's a different interaction between me and the subject.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's always a great thing, because when you're doing pieces that are this dramatic and this imposing in a way, if you don't have that, then it feels like you lost something. But I feel like all of these capture that fierceness, and they each capture a specific part of someone's personality that is challenging. Like, even for me as a character designer, getting expressions is tough. And yet with these, I feel like everyone has their unique quirk or their unique moment.
And it's also really fun because if you look at this portrait, it's very heavily layered, and it seems like a piece that you spend a lot of time just building up all of the material. But then there's also pieces like this that feel very fast, really gestural. And like, this one has like such direct, harsh marks. And so, Mel, I think you have a lot of versatility in your drawing, and it's benefiting you a lot, because oftentimes people only like to do finished stuff, or they only like to do gestures, but you don't see a lot of people who are so good at doing both at the same time. John Piper says he appears to be facing the effect aging has had on him. Oh, somebody wrote, Jordan, the other day, one of the YouTube comments, they said, "I have earned every wrinkle on my face."
I love that.
Jude says, this one where the face is looking down, the nose at you, is awesome. Kessam says the harshness of the marks just adds to the pained expressions. And Seven Angelic says they have this lens that makes the viewer feel like they were looking through a lens of altered reality. Wow, Seven Angelic, you want to write my next artist statement? Okay, let's take a look at the next artist, who I believe is live here in the chat. So this is Ariel, And the title of this piece is Selfie, My Life in Gray. And it's about feelings of lifelong alienation. Ariel says, I felt like I never really fit in, constantly, quote, graying myself out to blend in with others. Meanwhile, around me, I see the vibrant colors and shapes of life, which I capture in my work. And this is really cool, Jordan. These are actually nods to Francisco Goya's paintings of witches. Alien and UFO themes, Ariel explains, pervade our culture, especially recently in the news in the US Congress. And belief in extraterrestrial aliens remind me of when many people, including educators and government leaders, completely believed witches existed, just like in the Goya paintings were projections of humanity's fears. Wow, this is so rich and powerful, Ariel. This is great. What do you think, Jordan?
Yeah, that's so layered, and when I first saw this, I didn't realize that was the whole meaning behind it. And you're combining all these pieces of history and opinions about, social commentary and stuff. And so when you finally come out with this and you show this vibrant world on the outside, and yet this very, non-human like character, I understand a lot better. And I feel like there's a lot of emotions behind this that you were able to capture in this piece.
And it's so cool to see, Ariel, that you're doing this nod to Francisco Goya, and yet we would never know. Because sometimes people say, oh, well, this person's inspiring me, and they sort of end up just doing what that artist already did, or they just use their style or something. But the drawing you did is so far removed from the Goya piece in terms of the visuals and the styles. But I just love that you really thought about Goya, because we encourage a lot here at Art Prof for all of you to look at art history, to look at contemporary art, and seeing the way that influenced you is just wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. I think that with something as deep a topic as what you're going for, that you almost can't afford to miss, how do I put it? Kind of misrepresent that. There has to be a way that you capture all these emotions at once, and I think that that's definitely your strength. Like when you talk about alienation and just the difference between the character and the environment around them, and then the kind of creative swirls that you're putting all over the place, and the color choices, like those things all really add that deep impact. And yet you look at the eyes, and they're the most vibrant thing on this character, and it connects me to this outside world, but it also feels isolated at the same time.
Angie says this is absolutely gorgeous. Gestural quality and the bold colors are brilliant. And Phyllis says it feels both alien and human at the same time. The eyes are so very human, but the enlarged head takes it in another direction. Yeah, the eyes are one of my favorite parts of the piece. And I don't say that very often, because I think a lot of people rely on the eyes to carry a portrait, but these eyes are mesmerizing. I mean, they're like cutting deep into me.
You're following me like the Mona Lisa eyes.
Yeah, except a lot more intense. I mean, yeah. I don't know that I want to be followed around by this alien. And it's so cool how the theme you're working with, Ariel, it's actually somewhat similar to Phyllis's, because Phyllis was saying earlier about fading into old age and the colors coming out. And yours is sort of similar in that Ariel said in the artist statement that I gray myself out to fit in. And so it's not quite the same thing, but the concept is sort of similar about like fading in and fading out, and the color being part of that role of like calling more attention to yourself. So it's very exciting. John Piper says almost like mind controlling eyes. Oh yeah, these eyes are telling me what to do. Love it. Okay, and Karen says the eyes look away and are piercing through you at the same time. Yeah, the glossiness I think is wonderful. I think you can feel the eyeballs. They're wet, they're juicy, they're really piercing in that way. Okay, the next artist is Jennifer Bosian. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Jennifer says, I'd never had so much fun before while creating art. Me and my boyfriend already had a blast taking the most stupid selfies we can think of. Jordan, do you take selfies? I don't think you do.
Not really. Yeah, especially none that look like this.
Yeah, I don't really take them either because I feel like the angle is always so weird. And so I never want to take them. But I guess the thing is, if you're like Jennifer and you like own it, it kind of works.
Yeah, you have to put a certain level of silliness or overconfidence in it, whatever you do. If you're gonna push it to the silly route like these, or if you're gonna try to go for the cute, sexy look, you have to have that confidence either way.
Jennifer says, I want to create something funny, the uglier the better. Started with outlines using a black fine liner, added watercolor and some highlights with white gouache, cracked up laughing in between. And I'm thinking about doing a whole series of this in the future with friends and family members. I think that's a great idea. Wouldn't that be a great series?
That's so fun. Yeah, I think the best art to me is always when the artist is having fun. And if you only did 2 of these so far, and you're like, okay, I need to do like my whole family now. My whole family tree has to get in on this. Like, that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Melanie says, I can tell you guys had fun. Yaritza says, this is so nice. Ankari says, these make me laugh every time. How can you not laugh? I mean, these are hilarious. And you know what? I think it's hard to make art that's funny.
Oh, yeah. I think people that make the mistake of overthinking it or not doing enough to develop it. So, or they just make it too complicated sometimes. And, you know, having a genuine laugh or just that shock value is really tough. Like, that's why I think comedians have like one of the most difficult jobs ever. You know, that is not easy. So, yeah, kudos to you.
Well, I think that if you make humorous artwork, it either works or it crashes and everybody's just like, oh, you're an idiot, you know, or that's how you feel people are going to react. Yeah. But you owned these, Jennifer. I mean, these are hilarious. Like, look at the wrinkles near the eyes. Those are so funny to me.
Yeah. You know, I think part of the issue is just hesitation. A lot of artists, when they try and do something that's a little bit extreme on what this is the funny side, some people do on the more dramatic side, they don't know how to push it far enough, and they'll start just short of getting that emotional read from the audience. And you just like, forget all that. I'm drawing all these lines. I'm making the weirdest face I possibly can. It's great.
Keslam says, funny portraits are the best. It's so freeing to make ugly faces instead of professional, serious ones. Jordan, I don't know if I ever told you, my feeling is that there's an art school face that everybody paints as a self-portrait in art school. And it's this very like serious look. And everybody has to be so deep and existential. And so when you see something like this, as Keslam said, it is so fun and refreshing. All right, everybody, we've got some prizes to give out. The prizes go to Mel Smith, won the honorable mention for this art dare. So great job, Mel. We were so impressed by the range of your portraits, the quantity of the portraits, the expressions. It's a beautiful series of portraits.
Yeah, seriously, like when I talked about being dramatic and having all this emotion and character in these, I seriously meant that. So great job. I can't wait to see what you do next.
Prize winner is Iris Wild, who did the embroidered self-portrait after the haircut. So thank you so much for participating, Iris. We were thrilled with your process because, especially with materials, I think that it's hard to try something new and different. And you chose stitching, which you said in your artist statement you don't have a ton of experience with. But we were really impressed by the multiple stages you brought your piece through. I mean, the craftsmanship is beautiful in this piece.
Yeah. The process alone is, I feel like, enough to just be like, wow, this is really amazing. And then to come up with the results that you did, and you know, impressed everybody on the stream and on our team and everything. So good job, Iris.
Iris says, what? Good reaction. I love that. And by the way, I just have to say, all of you are so kind and supportive. And the fact that you come here to learn and support each other, and that it's not just a me community, it's really lovely, because there's a lot of art communities that are just not that mutual. People just post and run. It's not really about people supporting each other. So I hope that you all really enjoy that, because it's one of my favorite things. It's so heartwarming to see the way everybody supports each other. Remember, there's still 2 more days to enter the Abstract a la carte May Art Dare, so check that out. And remember, if you want to submit, tag us on Instagram, art.prof, use hashtag ArtProfDare. If you don't have social media, we do have an upload form on our website that you can check out. Art Prof has a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. In a few minutes, Jordan and I will be hanging out in the Art Prof Discord. You can all meet us in the post live streams channel so we can continue to congratulate everybody who participated. Invite link is in the video description below. Subscribe to our channel and join the Art Prof family, and give us a like, leave a comment, because YouTube God's not happy with us right now. And big thank you to our top Patreon supporters. We could not do this without you. We are inching closer and closer to our Patreon goal every single day. Every contribution helps. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye.